Hi again. I'd like to continue our discussion of the weather app in Xcode. And what I'd like to talk about now is how we're going to get the weather data. So for this example, I'm going to use this service here called OpenWeatherMap. Okay, so the address is openweathermap.org. And this is just a service. It's a free service that provides weather data. They actually sell the weather data too, but I think the way that we're going to use it, it'll be free. You'll need to sign in or create an account and sign in. You can actually use, I've been pretty successful using the site without the API key, but if your app, you want to publish it to the store and people are going to use it or something, if you get a lot of requests, they'll probably require the API key, right? And you can just sign up and get one of those for free, okay? So you can sign in, you can click the sign in button here and log into your account, and when you go to your profile page, at the bottom of the page, it'll show your API key, okay? To use the service, what we're going to do is we're going to go to their API option here, and the API stands for Application Programming Interface. So this is, functions that they provide, open to the world. They're like, they're accessible to everybody, right? And so here are their APIs. They have the current weather data, the 5-day, 3-hour forecast, the 16-day daily forecast, historical weather stations, weather map layers, right? We're going to use this one over here called current weather data, the first one. And so I'll click the more button. And then this describes what the service does. And what this service does is it provides the weather data, the current weather data, in JSON, XML, or HTML format, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to provide a location, and then it will return the weather data for that location, okay? And there's a couple ways to provide the location. You can provide it by city name, you can provide it by city ID, and you can provide it by geographical coordinates, zip code, and I guess that's everybody, right? And essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to call it from a URL. So this is the URL here, and we'll zoom in on that a little bit, right? So we call the service from the URL, and then after the question mark here, this is called the query string, and it's a part of the URL, but it's separate from the address. So this is the address that we're trying to go to on the internet, and then the query string is some name and value pairs that we're sending to that address, okay? And so here they have a value or a key value called Q, and then the value for that is city name, and they put it in the curly brackets to show you that that it's optional, like you're gonna input that value, right? Okay. So we're going to say Q equals, and then you put the name of your city, like Barcelona or Paris or London or something, right? Okay. And they give you a test example here. So, it says API open weather or data, weather question mark query equals London. And if I click on that, you can see that this is what it's going to return to me. So what we have here is this is data in the JSON format. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Let's go find JSON formatter. So I'm going to Google up JSON formatter, and there's a service that will format and validate your JSON, right? I'm going to use this just to look at the data here. So I'll just paste it in there, and this is kind of dense. It's a little hard to read, but if I format it with the JSON formatter, you can see it's a little easier to read there. Okay, so this is just, when we look at it this way, you can see, if you're familiar with JavaScript, that this is really just formatted as a JavaScript object, okay? JSON has some restrictions to how you can put information in it, but you can see that I've got this curly bracket at the beginning and a curly bracket at the end, and then all of the values are set up in name and value pairs. So there's a property name, colon, and then a value here. And then there's another property, a colon, and a different value, right? So this one right here is an object, and this is an array, and then this is, a string that says CMC stations, and then Main is another object, and if we open this one up, you can see it's got other properties inside that nested object that are, temperature, pressure, humidity, right? So anyway, that shows us all of the properties there, right? So we can kind of look and see what they have, right? So we're going to get this data into our program, and then we're going to take it apart, right? So essentially, when we call that address from our program, our app is going to load this data as text. So it's going to look like this, and then we're going to have to take it apart and kind of sort through it and find the elements that we want. And we'll probably have to convert these values into numbers or strings or whatever along the way, okay? And then at that point, we can display them on the screen. Okay, so there's the OpenWeatherMap service. And you can try this too, if you just want to experiment. You can see up here it says question. It might be hard to see in the video, but look at your screen and you'll see it says weather ? Q equals London. So what if I wanted to type in, San Francisco, right? So I could type in San Francisco, and then I'll hit return. Oh, I guess it doesn't let me do that without the API key. Maybe I can do this way. I'll leave it where it says ampersand API ID. I'll leave that API key there. And then I'll type in San Francisco, and then you can see I get different weather data. Or if I typed in, let me do that again, right? Let's type in Paris, and then you can see that the temperature and the the rest of the weather is a little different there, right? Okay, so anyway, that's how we're going to get the weather data. Okay, so and I hope that is useful to you. Before we leave, let's look at one other thing here. So that weather data, that it described to us here, these values like coordinate, weather, base, main, temperature, right? Those are all defined at the bottom of this page. So if you scroll down a ways, got to go a little bit further here. Somewhere down here. Yeah, here it is, right? It says parameters, right? And then it gives you a description of each one of those parameters or values in the JSON string. So, it gave us the coordinate object, and coordinate has properties of longitude and latitude, right? And so that would be talking about this top area, coordinates, and when I open that up, it's got longitude and latitude, right? And then there's the weather, right? And weather's got weather ID, weather main, weather description, weather icon. And so if I look in here, you'll see it says weather. And this one, you'll just have to note that this has got a square bracket because it's an array. And then that array has one item, which happens to be an object, and then that has ID, main, description, and icon, which is what we saw here, right? So sometimes it takes a little bit of like a careful look to figure out exactly how this is arranged, but it's not difficult really. Okay. And then you can see the rest of them. So there's base, you might say that's an internal parameter, so that's something to do with their site. But then you can see there's main, temperature, right? And then, it tells us that the temperature's in Kelvin, right? So that means we'll have to convert it ourselves to Celsius or Fahrenheit, right? And then you can see here, like the temperature is, let's go get it, 285, but that's in Kelvin, right? So that's, no wonder the numbers look so weird, right? Okay. But anyway, so there's all the data there, and you can read about it here, if you want more information.